Welcome to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast, where we are building a community of people who are in the midst of midlife, sharing our stories and learning from each other along the way. Each week, I'll have a guest join me to discuss a topic that impacts our lives and touches on some aspect of midlife. We'll discuss relationships, transitions, health and well-being, parenting, careers, and more. My goal is to encourage and support you and help you thrive as you navigate this adventure of midlife. Join me here each week for the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast. This week on the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast, I'm speaking with Tracy Berta. Tracy was a guest of the podcast in Season 2, Episode 6. She is a wife, mom to 5 children, and has 2 grandchildren. In this episode, Tracy discusses her caregiving journey with her parents, who have since passed away. Tracy commuted frequently to provide care to her parents who lived in Illinois. In this episode, Tracy shares how her faith, family, and friends supported her through her caregiving journey. She talks about how she continues to remember her loved ones, what resources helped her during caregiving, and how she included her children in caregiving during this time. Tracy Berta, welcome back to the Marvelous Middle Age Podcast.
Thank you, Nicole. It is so fun to be here. Thank you so much for having me back. It's always fun to talk with you.
Yes, it is. We were talking before I hit the record button, and I think we could have just kept going and never recorded a second. So I'm glad I remembered to hit record here before we got into it. Before we get into your story, I would love for you to reintroduce yourself to the listeners and just share a little about your family and what you're up to.
Yes, sure. Well, like you said, I'm Tracy Berta, and I am a wife, a mom, a grandmother.
Yes, to 2, and almost you're going to have a
I'm going to be a grandmother to 3. Yes.
Yay.
It's so fun. Yes, exciting. You hear that there's nothing like being a grandparent. It's a different kind of love. And you don't understand it until you are, and then you're like, yes, this is so true. It's just so fun being a grandparent and loving that. And speaker, writer, blogger, all the things. I'm in this wonderful middle-age season and have just been blessed to, really experience a lot of different things in my life. And I think the last time we talked about my husband, Brian, and I, he's just recently retired. This is his 2nd year. It'll be 2 years, November. And just all the different projects and things that we started doing.
Yes.
And so we continue to do that and just continue to live life. But really excited about our conversation today because I think it's so important for us, especially in this stage of life, to really be thinking ahead and, really understand what this season entails.
Right. The caregiving season. Yes. If you haven't listen to Tracy's first episode. She was on Season 2 of the podcast, Episode 6. And you're exactly right, Tracy. We talked about all the new adventures that you and your husband are pursuing in this season. It's a really fun episode. And if you're in middle age and you're wondering what's next, what are some things that me and my spouse can get into, check out Tracy's episode because it's really fun to listen to that. And you're absolutely right. This caregiving, family caregiving for aging people is really important to talk about. And you provided care for both of your parents before they passed away. Yes. Can you just kind of set the stage a little bit, share what your caregiving journey was like for your parents, for your family, for you, and kind of when did all of it start and kind of what happened along the way?
Sure. Well, so it's kind of funny. So just to give you a little background, I have 5 children and, all different ages. And so while my parents were going through this stage, it started really 2016, 2017, my dad had bladder cancer. And so that was just a whirlwind of surgeries and all of those things. But for me, I live here in Iowa, but my parents were in Illinois. So that was another layer. Yeah. They were about 3 hours away. And so that was always the added stress of me not being there, not being able to be present all the time, having 5 kids and having to be, there for the children and their activities and concerts and, those kinds of things, but also caring for my parents. So that was just really a hard season with my dad. And like I said, lots of surgeries, and bladder cancer is just really horrible. And he had the bag. And but anyway, we had a wedding coming up in 2018. And so we needed to get him healthy. And so my oldest son was getting married, and we were so excited, to have them be part of it. And we wanted Grandpa to be healthy and really be able to be at the wedding and to dance at the wedding. And it was so wonderful because one of the best memories is Boot Scootin' Boogie.
He boogied, huh?
They played that song, and he got up for one song because he was on oxygen.
Yeah.
And he had been a smoker for a lot of his adult life, and he just, his health really just started to fail. But that was 2018, June of 2018. My mom was great. And then all of a sudden, Christmas time, she went into the hospital with pneumonia and found out that her cancer, which she had had 5 years previously, had come back and metastasized into her lungs. And so that was, right before Christmas. And by spring break, I say, it was the middle of March 19th, she passed away. So she, it happened very quickly. Yeah. And then my dad passed away then in March, almost a year later, 2020. And so that was just a whirlwind of a season of life. And I was thinking about it this morning as, preparing, to have our conversations and things like that, and just kind of remembering some of the things. And I would say that it is such a stressful, hard, challenging time. And there's so many things with my parents as well, too. They had financial problems. And so I was power of attorney, and the driving back and forth and, all of those things, the hours trying to get a hold of Medicaid and, trying to help them in all of the ways, because when they, started to go down, they just went downhill fast. Right. And they needed help in everything, because they were at home still. And so keeping their home, kept up, the bills, all of those things. And so that was 2018 and then 2019. And it's funny because I looked back at my calendar about 6 months after my mom had passed, and because you just do it, when you're in it, you just do it, right. And you just survive.
Doing.
Yes. And I thought, no wonder this was so hard, because I looked at my calendar. I had traveled back and forth from my hometown to in Streator, Illinois, to Iowa every week, and thought, okay, that's why it was so hard. And I can remember one time at Target and just kind of thinking about this and thinking, I don't even realize if someone that I know is in the next aisle and not saying hello. I'm a very friendly person.
Yes, you are. You have a wonderful, huge heart, and you're always so welcoming and inclusive and all of that. So yes, you are. I can affirm that.
Yes.
If you don't know Tracy,
thank you.
I can affirm that.
Thank you. And so when I came home, I remember writing, a blog post about it, just that, hey, if I don't say hello to you, it's not because I may not have even seen you. And it really made me realize, we encounter so many people out in our daily life, and you never know what someone is going through.
Yes.
And for me, my mind was always, even if I was here in Iowa, my mind was always on my mom and all the things that we needed to do. And is she okay? And how can I help? And feeling guilty that you're not there more, feeling guilty, that I wasn't here more, being torn into places. And so it really made me realize that sometimes we can assume that someone is being, callous or angry or, those
standoffish, like, oh, they're not, why didn't so-and-so, I saw them over across the way in Target. Why didn't they come up to me and say hi? Or and you don't know.
Right. You never know what someone is going through.
Right. Yes, or if someone, that to be most of the time a pretty positive, welcoming person seems a little bit withdrawn or kind of not themselves, you don't know what they might be carrying. And some people can mask it too really well. They can come off as very happy, but inside they're struggling. And I think that's a really important thing to mention about caregiving is that it can be, for all the things you mentioned, being, especially when you're caregiving at a distance, the stress of that, but then also trying to carry your family at home, parents in another state, trying to care for them, holding it all together, that can feel very isolating. We talked just briefly about it before we started recording this episode, that it can be very isolating and it can feel like I'm in this alone and I'm struggling with this, trying to keep it all together, kids things, family things, other activities, whatever else you're involved in. And it's just a lot for a person to carry. So it makes sense that you were maybe, not your usual self during that time. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Was there anything during that time that you did or tried to do, or was it just impossible to do at that time? Because sometimes it's just too darn hard to try to take care of yourself or fill your own cup? Or was it just, I'm just curious, like how you kind of coped with all of that stress?
Well, and to kind of even dovetail off on the loneliness, really it was my Bible study group of friends, that helped me so much. And we just had a little chat, a little text chat. And, I would just say, I need prayer. And they were just always right there checking on me, helping whenever with everything. And, especially with prayer, things like that. But also another thing that was so very important. Well, and then also for my own, I have a strong faith, and it was really my faith that got me through. And so for my own sanity, it was so important for me to make sure to spend time with the Lord, to have my quiet time. And a lot of times it would just be, it was certainly not doing a Bible study or anything like that, but it was just pouring my heart out to God.
Yeah.
And, pleading with the Lord for more time. I want more time with my mom.
Yeah.
And, just in prayer, listening to, songs, listening to Christian songs, one after the other.
That can really.
Yes. Even now when we sing things in church, there'll be a certain song that'll come on and my tears just flow because it was a song that I listened to on repeat with my mom. And, but the other thing that I would really strongly encourage people is to make sure that you keep taking care of yourself. And so, in our hometown, there's a YMCA. And so I would go to pound class, you know, and I would actually schedule my trips back to Streeter around the workout schedule.
Wow. I love that.
I could catch there and still work out here at home because I knew that it was really important for me. Yeah. And I tried to eat, as well as I could, but this was something that I always treated myself to every single trip back was a chocolate milkshake from McDonald's.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes just something like that, just to say, you know what, I'm in a hard season right now. I'm going to do things to take care of myself, but I just need to give myself a little treat. Like you said, whether it's a milkshake or, going to Starbucks or whatever, it's just something to just have a little glimpse of some joy and some fun. And I think I've been reading and kind of consuming a lot of content lately about how we can simultaneously be grieving and still experience joy.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people affiliate caregiving for an aging person, especially if the aging person is ill or has a chronic health condition, as a really tough time, because it is, right? Let's face it. But there's also joy.
Yes.
And you can feel those things simultaneously. For example, you had your son's wedding during this time. And so you can feel joy for things like weddings or just something in your day, like a chocolate milkshake, while still struggling with the fact that, oh my gosh, my parents are going through this and I'm dealing with all of the complicated things that are a part of caregiving. I think it's important to acknowledge that on the heels of what you said about how when you are seeing someone who might be appearing to be happy, or maybe they truly, really are happy about something, they can still be grieving at the same time.
Yes, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said that, because as I was thinking about this morning too, that season was such a challenging, hard season. And if you say, would you like to go back to that season and experience it a second? Yeah. No, I really wouldn't.
No.
But I treasure that season as well. And, when you say that it brings you joy, it sounds so strange to say that, but yes, remembering those times, remembering that time with both my mom and my dad, it brings me such joy just experiencing it again in my memories, even though it was one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with in my life.
Right.
So,
right. Absolutely. And I think you can have that. It can be that,
yes.
Like, would I want to go back and do it all over again? I don't think so, but I can reflect back and find those moments where there were sweet moments or precious times with those in my life who I'm caring for. And and that's okay. That's okay. And I want to just reassure listeners, if you're in a tough season right now with this, it's okay to experience joy, and you should, and you are going to look back, like you said, someday, and you're going to have those moments.
Yes.
We talked a little about this, but how has a caregiver, now that you can kind of look back and reflect, how did it impact you personally, with your family, with your own life, your own relationships? What kinds of, I don't want to say lessons, but takeaways did you have from caregiving? Is there anything that you can think back like, oh gosh, now I know how important this is in my life, or what I want to do over here? Anything like that come up for you with this?
Yes, several things. Well, especially right after my mom passed away, our whole family said, we have got to make sure that we don't ever take time for granted, because you never know how much time you're going to have with a person.
Yeah.
And so our family has always been one to celebrate anyway. I mean, we make a big deal.
You guys have some epic things. I see your Facebook post and I'm like, oh, they are together and having a blast.
Yes,
I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
So we've celebrated little things, always, but it was again a reminder to really, spend time with people. The work will wait, the to-dos, the chores, all of those things. Sometimes we just have to put those things aside and, to spend time with people, because we never know how much time we'll have. Right. And so my mom passed away in March, and her birthday was September. And my mom loved Bloody Marys.
All right.
She loved fall decorations. Yes. And she was so funny. She always made, we called them barbecue. They're sloppy joes.
Yep.
Just sloppy joes. That was like her famous dish, was sloppy joes. And so for the first birthday, that we didn't have with her, the kids all came over. We had Bloody Marys, sloppy joes.
I love it.
Chips and dip, because that was another specialty.
That's awesome. I love
my
that.
mom's, and they loved to play, my mom and dad loved to play euchre. And so the kids will not play it anymore because they never did learn it, but they did play it,
right.
for the birthday party, kind of thing. But just to keep those memories alive and to continue to celebrate, our loved ones, even if they are not here with us right now,
right.
We can celebrate all of our memories and the joy that we had, living our lives with them. So
absolutely. Yeah. I love that you share that. And I think it's sweet that the family came together to share in some of her favorite foods and games and all of that. It's funny you mentioned that. My mom passed away in 2018, and my sister told me the other day that she was just kind of, as you do, I think, I don't know if you do this with your parents, but we'll kind of say, Mom, we know you're in heaven and with Jesus right now. And can you just kind of let me know that you can see me or something? And so my mom was really into decorating her home. She loved it. Whether it was a holiday or not. I mean, it was just any kind of decor for her home. And my sister kind of said, hey mom, I just want to know, I want to feel your presence, or I want to know like you're around. Right. And she went into a store and saw a pillow that my mom had. Oh, the exact pillow.
Wow.
Then she went into another store and saw a painting that my mom, or a picture of something that my mom had hung on the wall in her home for a while. And my sister said, she was messaging me all of this. And of course, mom would show up in home decor. That's the way she's going to let me know that she's here. And I think that it's just important for us in the season of kind of that post-caregiver process of grief, because there's always going to be times we're going to miss those loved ones, right, that have passed away. That we just find ways to remember them and honor them and acknowledge that, they were here, and that we loved them.
Yes.
Yes. And it's really, really important. You talked about really being, the focal point in terms of being the caregiver, having to handle financial things and other pieces. Were there any resources that you used or anything that you found helpful? I know you said your parents were aging in their home and staying in their home. Anything you found helpful during that time that helped you as a caregiver, like any services or any books or anything that you used to help you during that time?
Well, there were a couple things. First of all, I have a wonderful friend who has, she's just a little further along the road than me, and was able to share experiences. And so if I had questions, things like that, I would call her up, Kale, I don't know about this. Can you explain this to me? And she really would help me. Yeah. My parents both were able to have, like home health came in, and that was such a lifesaver. And the nurses were wonderful, and, all of that. And then, like I said, I had a group of friends here who really helped for my own care as well too. Yeah. Meals on Wheels was another one, because again, I would come and I would make meals, and I would get meals ready and get things in the freezer and things like that, because my parents weren't able to make meals anymore. Yeah. So Meals on Wheels was another, really great program that came to help them.
Organization.
That kind of thing. But
yeah. It's interesting how you can find the things that you need. And I love the point that you brought up about asking people who are a little further down the road, because they've probably been through something similar, maybe not exactly the same situation, but they can point you to things or explain how certain processes work, whether it be filling out paperwork or whatever.
Yes.
And that's really, really helpful, especially when it's someone you trust.
Yes.
That has got your best interest at heart and in your family's, but also someone you can just be like, I've got all the questions, just help me out with this. And I loved also how you brought up about your own care, because again, I think caregivers, that just falls so quickly to the bottom of the priority list. And, taking care of ourselves anyway is important, but especially when you've got that added role now in your life of caregiver.
Yes.
And if you don't take care of yourself, your body's going to let you know. And it's going to be hard to perform the duties of caregiver if you're not well yourself. So if you were sitting down and talking to someone who was either in the beginning stages of all this or was going through it, is there any guidance, any advice, anything you would want them to know about
one
this
thing,
season?
Especially if you have children, don't exclude them from it. So our kids, it was wonderful. I rarely went to Streeter alone. Someone always came with me. Sometimes I would call them out of school, and they would come, and that was wonderful, because then they had that time with their grandparents. And then also just to see them. So at the time, not our youngest, Abby, but the older kids, they were teenagers and young adults. And so when they would come, they would do things that I was just blown away by. Like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're doing that. Cleaning the bathrooms. And I mean, just because when, elderly adults can't take care of themselves anymore.
They need extra. Yeah,
yes.
Extra help
and there will be messes and things like that. And wow, I was just blown away by my kids and how they just really jumped in and helped. And one of the most beautiful things that I'll always remember is our oldest, Ashley. She had noticed that I would often bring just like a nice moisturizer with me, and I would rub my mom's hands. So I would just sit with my mom and I would put the because their skin is so dry.
Yeah.
And so I would put the moisturizer on and give her like a little hand massage, and that would be a nice time. So when my mom passed away, Ashley had said, "Mom, come here. I have some things that I want to share with you." And she had gotten a nice smelling candle and beautiful moisturizer, very nice moisturizer. She said, "Sit down. I just want to rub your hands like you rubbed grandma's."
Wow.
So
our kids are watching us. No, you got me. You got me.
Yeah.
You got me. Our kids are watching us.
Yes.
Yes. And we model things for them. They see things. And first of all, I love the fact that you involved your kids, because I think as parents, sometimes our initial reaction is to shelter our children from these really tough situations. And again, it has to be all age appropriate. As you mentioned, your kids were a little bit older at this time, but I think that them seeing aging people is important. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to dread. It's just a stage of life, a different stage of life. One, also having them help out. First of all, just a big help, to have another pair of hands, but also for them to see this is real life. And these are things that need to be done. And I'm helping out Grandma and Grandpa here. And, but then for her to witness those sweet moments with you and your mom, and for her to see you performing that beautiful act of love for your mother, and for her to, in her way, process that and say, "Mom, I'm going to do that for you," and how important and how much that must have just meant to you in that time, during that really difficult time. Our kids, those are lifetime lessons that she was always going to have that. Because of that. That's so powerful. It's so powerful and beautiful and just special.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love
Another
that.
suggestion I would make too is just to keep a journal. Sometimes it's just nice to go back and reflect, on feelings that you had or moments that you've had or memories and things like that. So that's kind of nice to keep a journal as well too.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a big journaler, and I find that the act of journaling is kind of a way to process the feelings I'm having in the moment, but I also look back on it too. And yes, I agree. I kept journals all for years. I don't even know when I started. It's been so long. I have a stack. And to look back, especially at some of the prayers I had, years ago for different things in my life, and to look back to see how God has fulfilled in His way and answered, many, many of those prayers that I've had, and in tough seasons, which caregiving can be tough, as we've talked about. It is interesting then to go back and read through, like, wow, I was going through that. I did that. With God's help, with friends and family helping, we got through this. We did that. And you can share that hope with other people that are going through it as well. So,
and then probably the last thing I would say would be to give grace to yourself, which we've already talked about. One thing that I haven't shared with you yet is, being in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 26 years, never had a automobile accident, never. That season, I backed into, out of my own driveway, a car, not once, but twice, parked in the driveway because my mind was just, elsewhere. And so give yourself grace, but then also give others grace, especially if you have siblings, things like that. So I have a sister. My sister is older than me, and she lives in Streator. But she, at the time, was just not able to deal with what was happening. And it was hard. And so just giving her, grace as well too. And she had her own health issues as well, at the time and that kind of thing. So just remembering that, people will handle things differently. She would often say to me, she said, Tracy, I don't know how you're doing this. And I said, sis, it's only Jesus is the only way.
This is the only way.
Yes, he's getting me through. And honestly, being in a different place, having that 3-hour drive was a blessing many times because I could process everything. I could pray. I could sing songs, all of those things.
Right.
And so I was able to spend time with the Lord, even
the car's a great place to spend time with God. I can tell you many, many conversations with the Lord that happen in the car. And when you have that time, that's really nice. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yes. So for sure, giving siblings and family grace and just realizing that, people.
It's different. Everyone's experiencing the caregiving journey differently.
Yes.
And their ability to be involved or not be involved or whatever is going to be different. It's going to look different. And you're right. I think it would have been real easy to, say, well, gosh, I'm doing this and this and this, and, you're not, and I'm doing this and that. But when you say, we're all going through this in different ways, and being, patient and giving grace when needed is so, so important. And I think that helps us then too, because then it allows us to feel how we're going to feel, but yet not have the negative side of things. And it's okay. I think, I've talked with people who have had caregiving situations with siblings, especially when one sibling maybe lives way far away and one's closer and whatever. And I think there were times when it was tough, but when they sat down with the sibling and said, kind of like you did with your sister and really got into it, it was like, oh, okay, I get it. I get why this is hard for you, or why you're doing this and I'm doing that. And it's just, it's difficult for everyone.
Yes.
You know, everyone's going through it. So.
And emotions run high. And
right. Because you're into, especially when I think the people that you're caring for might be facing a terminal kind of end of life situation. I think that emotional, lever is just at the max, and it would be easy to let that kind of take over.
Yes.
So
Yes. For
I
sure.
agree with that. Tracy, I just appreciate you sharing this journey with us. I know this episode is going to bless so many people. It's important. Like you said, it's an important topic to talk about. It needs to be talked about more, I think. And that's one of the reasons I'm doing the series, is because I just don't think we talk about this stage of life for those of us who are in middle age and are anticipating or are currently caring for an aging family member. It's just not something we share a lot about.
Right,
so thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Well, and Nicole, thank you for bringing this topic, like you said, is very, very needed topic to our attention, and spending time on it, because it truly is so important.
It is. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow the show to make sure the latest episode is on your podcast feed each week. I would greatly appreciate a rating and a 5-star review on the podcast platform you're listening on. It helps others to find the show. If there are topics you'd like me to discuss on the show, please email me at themarvelousmiddleagepodcast@gmail.com or direct message me on Instagram at Nicole Stute. Thank you for listening.